In this video, we're going to be talking about the different types of parties that you can have. So we talked a little bit about this already when we were discussing our launch party. And it would not be too different, I would say, for anybody else who wanted to host a party. So the first thing we'll talk about is home parties. So typically when you have a home party, you will gather up all of your things. Like I said, you only really need things from your kit. If you end up accruing more things that you want to display that are in our catalogs, like let's say, for example, you got things from your shooting star kit that you want to bring, you can totally bring that. The key is to keep it simple. So when we show up to people's houses, we don't want to be making 5, 6, 7 trips out to the car to bring things in just for a home party. We want it to be pretty simple, a simple setup. So first you would check with your hostess and you would say, should I bring a table? Most of the time, the hostess will have a general idea of where she wants the party to take place. If it's in the kitchen, if it's in the living room, if it's a smaller party and she wants to have it in the kitchen, I would just have all my things on the dining room table in the very middle. People can get their food and sit at the table, and then everybody's just gathered around and then they can smell everything. Sometimes there is an entertainment center or a spot in the living room that you can set up on. Sometimes we do need to bring our own tables though. So if you happen to have a smaller folding table, bring that, bring a tablecloth, you could set things up on it. It is also important to ask your hostess if there's anywhere that you can plug in, if there's an outlet or if you should bring a small extension cord. Not all the time. And I don't actually always plug in warmers, because what I'll do is I'll say, hey, do you have any warmers that you're going to have out? And then I'll ask them to make sure that their warmers are empty when I get there. So then I will put in new wax when I get there. So I'm utilizing their warmers in their space. But then you can also stage their house. So it doesn't necessarily need to be on a table in the very front of the room. It could be a mini warmer plugged into the bathroom, or a room spray in the bathroom. It could be the hand soap in the kitchen at the sink. So when they're washing their hands, they can use your hand soap. So you can actually set up your products as if it belonged there already. It doesn't need to look like this formal display. Make sure your hostess invites people who are who she wants to be there, to make sure she doesn't mass over invite. We talked about that a little bit with our launch party too. Have her intentionally invite people one-on-one. And the more people she invites, the better, because chances are party day, a lot of people are going to back out, or something's going to come up and they're not going to be able to make it. I like to double dip on parties. So I like to say, if she's doing a home party, we'll also create an online link for her, because like I said, chances are there's some people who things come up. That gives them the option to order online before or day of if they happen to miss it. So giving her the option to have a party link also will help. You can encourage her to offer something savory, something sweet, something to drink. It doesn't need to be a huge stress on her. I like to show up to my parties about an hour early, so I can make sure I get in all set up, and then I offer myself to help the hostess in any way. I think most people are skeptical about hosting a home party because it's kind of stressful. You have to clean your house, you have to have people over. And if I can help alleviate that for my hostess as much as possible, I will. So I will offer to set out any hors d'oeuvres that she has. I will offer to tidy up or do the dishes while she's, frantically trying to scurry around trying to do her thing. So I like to make myself available, but it really doesn't take any more than an hour, maybe even more than 35 minutes to really set up your party display and get it looking great. So in your consultant guide, there's some tips. 10-7-2-1 rule. So at least you want her to over invite, but try to have at least 10 guests there. If there's less, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be a more intimate party, but the more people you have there, the better. And if your hostess is a Scentsy fan, like if she loves Scentsy, there's so many times that I will go to a party and I'm myself available for questions, but my hostess is rocking it and she's selling things like you know, she's selling things like she sells them, but she doesn't sell them. Try to get at least 7 of the 10 guests to place an order. 100% rate would be great. And if they personally don't use the products, like if they personally are like, you know, they don't use fragrance or whatever, then they can buy for gifts. And then you want to try to get 2 people to book a party from that party. So there's a bunch of booking games that you can look up in the workstation. Some of them are really fun, and you can have booking prizes and things like that. And then try to gauge the interest of the people at your party and see if there's at least one person who maybe you think would be a great contributor to your team. A lot of times that is the hostess. If the hostess, especially, like I said, is selling the products for you, it's kind of like a shoo-in, because number one, they have their people there and they are telling their people about it, sort of like an influencer. And then they already got to see how a party is demonstrated. So that might be an option too. Not everybody wants to sell, and that's okay. So don't force it, but you could always offer it. Another way that you could do a party is by doing fairs and shows. So we talked a little bit about, you know, if you did get the shooting star kit and you did want to have inventory and you did want to do all those things, most of them do cost a fee. If you do like what we call a vendor blender, that is basically where you and a bunch of other direct sales people get together, do a pop-up shop. I just did one in December at a CrossFit gym. It didn't cost me anything to do it. I just went and set up, and people came and shopped for the holidays. So sometimes it does cost, sometimes it doesn't. The benefit of fairs and shows is you meet a lot of people who you wouldn't normally have in your circle, and you get a lot more contact information. It really only takes one new contact to open you up to their entire, their entire circle of people. So fairs and shows is a great way to meet new people. One-on-one. You don't always have to do a party. So a lot of times if somebody just wants to smell things, you could just be like, hey, you want to meet up for coffee? Bring your testers, bring your catalog, sit there, have a coffee date with them, have them sniff things. It's just one-on-one. If you could just get the order, then that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be this big elaborate party. So those are like the in-person things. I always am collecting orders. Not everybody wants to host a party, but not everybody wants to do an in-person one. People are just like, hey, order me this. So I have a little, you can't see it from right here, but I have a little spot in my wall where if somebody sends me an order, I write it down, I stick it in there. Then when I'm putting in a local order, I'll add theirs to that party. It benefits my hostess at the same time. On-the-go parties. We talked about basket parties. This is everything you need for an on-the-go party. You can order more of these in the Scentsy Consultant store. You get one with your kit, but once you get more parties going, if you only have one, you only have one party going at the same time. But if you order like 2 or 3, then you can have 3 or 4 parties happening at any given time. So a basket party is a great way. These were my jam when I first started. I still prefer basket parties. I prefer basket parties with my hostesses who know what they're doing, that they are presenting the party in a way that I would, and they're offering it to everybody just as well as I would. I would not want to give this to somebody blindly and be like, here you go, see you in a week or 2, and then get it back and have 0 orders, and it basically wasted 2 weeks of my month where this could have actually been making money for me. So I consider these like my little employees, and it needs to go to work. It needs to work, and it needs to bring me orders. And so if it comes back to me empty-handed, then I basically just lost 2 weeks worth of that employee's work. So I would add catalogs in there. I would add order forms in there. I like to add, what did I do with it? So this basket party right here. So I like to add any current flyers we're doing. So if we're, like we had, you know, our holiday flyers just a couple, you know, just a month or 2 ago, I would like to add any of those in there. I'll usually try to do a little Scentsy Club blurb. We'll talk about Scentsy Club later. But I like to do some sort of envelope for them to collect their payment information in. So if somebody's paying with cash, I don't want the cash floating in my bag. I want it to be in here. Sometimes they'll put it in an envelope and staple it on. A lot of times it's just card information, so that's pretty easy. Sometimes they'll Venmo me if they know me. But on here, this is just a little added thing I do. Let me try to put something behind this so you can see it easier, because it's a little bit hard to see. But I made a label to put on here. There we go. It's a little easier. So that way they can pay me. It has all my payment information for all my little Cash App things. So if they choose to pay me Venmo, my Venmo's on there. If they choose to pay me PayPal or Cash App or Zelle or Apple Pay, or if they're paying with a check, it's all right there. It all tells them what to do. I cannot tell you how many times somebody has paid with a check and made it written out to Scentsy, and I have to call them and be like, I cannot cash checks to Scentsy because that would be corporate, and I'm not corporate. I'm Sarah Beeman, independent Scentsy consultant. So I need the checks to be made out to me. So anyway, so that's what I will do in my basket parties. Like I said, I send them out for a week or two at a time, and then I'll collect them so that I can put the orders in. The reason why, and pretty much for any party, you want the turnaround to be within a couple weeks. 2 really is like the max that you really want their turnaround. Even individual orders you're hanging on to, 2 weeks is probably the max, because then it's going to take another, 7 to 10 business days before the order gets to you, and then you have to bag it up and deliver it. And you want to get that product in their hands right away so they can start using it. And especially if they're giving you like a check, or if they're paying with a credit card and they're paying 2 weeks ago, right now, they may not have the money in their account anymore, and things bounce. I prefer not to take checks. I've had them bounce before, unless I know the person who is paying me. If it's a random person, I really try not to do checks. It's just, I've had it bounce, and then I've had to pay a bounce check fee, and it's not fun. So that's with basket parties. Okay, and the key to that is truly doing really good hostess coaching. So you really need to check in with your hostess and make sure that she's pushing it. She's not leaving it in the car. She's not forgetting it in her trunk. She's not leaving it at home when she's supposed to be taking it with her. But that she's actually taking it around with her and collecting orders. It's helpful too to get a wish list from her to start, so that way you know what her goals are and you can tell her where she needs to be pretty much in sales to reach her wish list. That helps as well. There are host coaching, like hostess handbooks, but to keep it simple, I would say you don't want to give them this big long handbook they have to read. But it is super important to make sure that, especially in the summertime, that they take care of your testers. These get expensive, and if they leave them in a car and they melt everywhere, that is no good to you. And you just basically wasted all that money, and now you have melted testers. So keep in good contact with them. The other thing is fundraisers. So fundraisers is it's a little bit of a tricky topic. Similar to fairs and shows, it's a great way to get new contacts. But with fundraisers, basically how it works is you are donating a portion of your commission. So you have to factor that in when you're doing a fundraiser. If I was doing a fundraiser for a cheerleading squad and I got a bunch of orders, Scentsy's not doing the fundraiser, I'm doing it. So my contribution back to the cheer squad is pretty much giving them some of my commission. So you need to make sure it makes sense, because you don't want to spend your money that you've earned on Scentsy stuff or giving it away. And you don't want to you don't want to spend family stuff on that either. So you just want to make sure there's definitely ways to do it, to make it successful, to make it so that you're inputting things the right way so it makes sense and you're not losing a ton of money. Sometimes it is worth it. Sometimes, like, I've done adoption fundraisers for friends and it's worth it. 100% of my commission you can have for your fundraiser, because in the process I'm gaining new contacts, and you know, I'm getting the PRV points if we're in an incentive period. So there are ways for it to benefit you outside of just being financial, but just make sure you look into fundraising before you commit to doing one. And then the last one is online. So online, we talked about that too when we were talking about launch parties. So online, you set up a link, they shop your link. So what I like to do is always have an open link anytime. So I will always have like January online orders. And so people can always click January online orders. But what I've been doing lately is featuring a hostess of the month. And that's just pretty much one of my customers who usually always buys. And I will put their information on there. I will say, you know, Melissa. And I will say Melissa's our hostess of the month. And so when I am posting things in my VIP group, if I'm posting things on Facebook, or if a random customer goes to my website and they see all my open parties and they're like, I want to attach one to that open party, but I don't know which one. They say, which party should I do? I'm going to tell them the hostess of the month. I'm going to tell them, put it under Melissa's party because she's my hostess of the month. And the hope with that also is, one, to get them rewards, because I want to reward my customers, my hostesses. But two, also maybe let them know that they're more likely to share my link. And I could also try to flip that and get her to join if she really wanted to with her host rewards. It's not always the case, but that is something that is also a possibility there. And then, you know, there's different ways to party. You could do Facebook parties, you could do bingo parties, you could do, there's so many different fun ways to party where it's not just like very plain. Especially like if it's the summertime, you could do like a poolside party and have people come. If you have a friend who has an outside pool, it'll be a pool themed party. You could highlight, you know, our beachy, fun, kind of summery scents. It's like the featured of the party, and your hostess can go out and buy, you know, beach balls and flamingos and pineapples and all those things. We've had, you know, fall is like super fun to theme things for fall. St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, like there's a lot of different ways that you could theme a party for having it be a home party. And then you can and then the games that you play to book more parties or to do things like that can just be incorporated within the theme. So if you have any questions about that, let me know.